On March 7, 2014, all the thousands of text and video blogs from the IBM-sponsored site InternetEvolution.com were suddenly removed from the internet, disappearing forever, like tears in rain. I lost 57 items from my CV in that event, content created between 2008 and 2014. During the subsequent 7 years, the content was entirely inaccessible. Then on February 6, 2021, at the bottom of a broken drawer at home, I discovered an old hard drive that had many of the videos that we had submitted to InternetEvolution.com. Here I am in a video yesterday describing how exactly that happened. In a broken drawer in what we call the computer room, the bottom drawer wouldn't function properly because the bottom of it was broken and there was something big in there. And that big thing turned out to be a hard drive. So we plugged it in and it still worked. And it has most of those videos that I sent to Internet Evolution. And you might say, oh yeah, but it doesn't have like the sting at the beginning. Like there was this, there's this kind of circus company, Solez. So they did a takeoff on that, spelled it a little differently, Solez. And so every video I did, the first 30 seconds had this theme. But since Solez has gone bankrupt, that isn't such a cool theme, right? And so if you just start with a video without that start, it's fine. It's not as if you would necessarily miss it. The other thing that we're missing, having just the video, is the written commentary. But as I said, the site was so poorly managed that often what happened with my best videos, of course, it's just my opinion, but the people running the site didn't understand the video. And so spent a lot of time making it clear that they didn't get the point of the video, right? So that doesn't help me either. So I think just having the bare video is fine for both of those reasons. You don't need to think at the beginning, and you don't need their comments on it when they didn't understand what I was talking about. So it was the most important core. Yeah, and if you just think about this, okay, what would be the downside of something like this? Like you find a hard drive from like 2013, 2014, and you connect it. What could go wrong with that? Well,
depends on what's in the hard drive, I guess.
It turns out that this hard drive was just riddled with malware, but for some reason, on my Mac, I have this antivirus program which just sits there. It's got nothing to do. It's like the Maytag repairman, It's on a computer that never sees any malware, and it's looking for malware, and there never is any. So boy, was that program happy yesterday. Ping, ping, ping. And there was nothing it couldn't manage, of course, because these weren't new viruses, right? They're viruses from olden times that the malware knows exactly what to do with.
Wow.
So, yeah, anyway, that
was
an
adventure.
A very interesting part. How it quarantined or, deleted absolutely everything. And that was malware, yeah. So that also wasn't a problem. It was just sort of an interesting sidelight, something one could have predicted would be an attribute of found hard drive from the past.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
what an adventure.
So now I think the video I'm planning to do becomes much more interesting because now I'm like Rip Van Winkle. The world is moving more quickly. Now, the story of Rip Van Winkle from 1819 was that he missed the Revolutionary War, and so, big deal, and he was asleep for 20 years, right? This is like I was asleep for just 10 years, but a lot of things happened in that 10-year period. And I think the main thing that happened is that the stuff I was doing those videos on was beyond the mainstream interest of most people back then, but seems relevant now, and everything I was saying then is still true. It's surprising how those videos are not dated in any way. Like, subsequent findings have completely, invalidated what I was saying. There's nothing like that. So finding the hard drive did not completely resolve the problem of the missing material, but it was a very welcome development nonetheless. And it made me feel much more whole again and very focused on this 10-year-old material, which I had largely forgotten about. As I explored things further, I rediscovered a YouTube video I did with Nikki Olson on existential risks on February 8th, 2011, exactly 10 years ago from today. That is clearly our most popular video ever, with 1,329 views and 11 thumbs up and 2 thumbs down. No other video of ours outperforms that. Existential risks was a niche subject in 2011. Now, thanks to COVID, it is very much mainstream 10 years later in 2021. Looking again at that original video, it is amazing how timeless it is and how relevant to today. Many things have changed in 10 years, but the items mentioned in that video are very much the same. In that sense, our 2011 video was very much ahead of its time. We are celebrating this insightful video that we uploaded 10 years ago today, but before doing that, I would like to bring you the words of the 3-minute summary by Lucas Perry from the Future of Life Institute podcast on existential risks from 1 month ago, January 8th, 2021. The hour-length podcast is an excellent summing up of where existential risks sit right now in 2021. And I hope my recitation of these final 3 minutes of the podcast will whet your appetite for listening to the whole thing. Lucas Perry says in 2021, it would be really valuable for governments around the world and international governance bodies to be more aware of existential risk issues in the first place. They need some basic literacy and understanding about the issues, the risk types, the probabilities, and what can be done to address them. I also think that such government bodies would also benefit from strengthening and creating institutions which can actually deal with and mitigate existential risks, whose sole priority is actually to focus on and deal with existential risk issues. We're a bit late to the game of having formal institutions that can work on these issues, but it's not too late, and it's sorely needed. And the first step to that is awareness in the right places. I'd also like to see increased global cooperation on existential and global catastrophic risk issues. The response to the pandemic has been all over the place in the world, and with more serious issues. It's going to require much more global cooperation than we've had in 2020. Issues like coordinating on AI alignment, mitigating accidental and intentional nuclear war, and also synthetic bio issues will require a lot of coordination by governments and a lot more than is happening now. We tend to ignore these issues until it's too late. We can make substantial progress on mitigating the risks of these if we can come together with awareness of these issues in mind and with foresight and with sensitivity to the reality of low probability, high risk events. And if there's anything that I would like to really bring into 2021 from 2020, it is the recognition of the reality of low probability, high risk events. COVID-19 was not even a global catastrophic risk, and we're quite lucky for that. But it does remind us that low probability, high risk events do occur. We're living out human history, and we're not special. We're not protected by some arc of human history which innately does not allow these risks to occur. They do occur, and we should take them seriously and work together to mitigate them. Okay, so that was Lucas Perry's summary of the existential risks situation in 2021. With that as a background, please now visit our original video from February 8th, 2011 that follows immediately on this same video. Enjoy! Hello, I'm Kim Solez. I'm a physician author from Edmonton, Canada. This is my writing partner, Nikki Olson. We're very pleased to be bringing you this Lifeboat Foundation video on existential risks.
In 1959, Richard Feynman conceptualized nanotechnology in his lecture, There's Plenty of Room at the Bottom, which first identified from the standpoint of theoretical physics the possibility of our manipulating single atoms and molecules. The methods and technology that would allow our being able to manipulate the world effectively at the molecular scale would not become available for many decades. However, soon after Feynman's insight into the possibility of nanotechnology came realization of the many positive and negative implications. Smaller and more flexible circuit boards are one thing that nanotechnology will accommodate, allowing for computers many times smaller and more powerful than those of today. Also, manufacturing of various materials and products will increasingly be done with nanotechnology, which will continue to make the manufacturing process more precise and efficient. Medicine has already benefited from nanotechnology, making it safer and more precise. And in the future, it has been proposed that smart nanotechnology would enter the bloodstream in the form of nano-sized robots, or nanobots. Nanobots would be able to identify and eliminate pathogens, or clean plaque in arterial walls. Environmental remediation, nanoparticles reversing the effects of pollution in the air, water, and on land, is another future promise of nanotechnology. Smart particles would identify and eliminate toxins, thus having highly significant implications given the current and anticipated effects of industry on the environment.
Smart and self-replicating nanotechnology is one of the greatest high-tech risks there is. There are many ways that something like that could get away from us and we would be at its mercy.
Engineer Eric Drexler, in his 1986 book, Engines of Creation, introduced the idea of grey goo, a hypothetical end-of-the-world scenario in which out-of-control nanotechnology consumes all the Earth's matter in the process of self-replication. Ways of preventing and managing nanotechnology disasters such as grey goo have been discussed by futurists. One idea has been to build a protective nanoshield, another to build highly sensitive, portable, immune-simulating detection systems to study, predict, and detect dangerous nanotechnology, and also foglets, which could communicate and work together in swarms to counter nanotech disasters. The application of nanotechnology to weaponry, or nanoweaponry, will be many times more powerful than biological warfare weapons of today, and represents another existential risk pertaining to nanotechnology.
We are going to make nano-weaponry, and these weapons will be more precise and deadly than any biological warfare weapons thus far. And the idea that this could somehow be contained or limited, that's probably not going to happen. Not only will the research in it proceed, but probably the practical applications as well.
The discovery of genetics, and its role in heredity in the modern sense, is often attributed to Mendel, who in 1865 first discovered that inheritance patterns of species could be explained in terms of rules and ratios. Then in 1953, James Watson and Francis Crick propose the structure of the DNA helix, the molecule that carries genetic information from one generation to the next. The Human Genome Project, sequencing the human genome in its entirety, began in 1990 and was completed in 2003. With a better understanding of genetics that results from this information, and other projects underway, as well as the anticipated reduction in cost of sequencing, we'll see many new positive frontiers in medicine. The idea of modifying the human genome in such a way as to prevent disease is only one future application of this technology. Future technology movements, such as the transhumanist movement, seek to substantially reduce the occurrence of suffering and disease using genetic engineering, and also to improve the human experience more generally, augmenting ourselves with technology.
We're going to transcend our current limitations and augment the human experience in unimaginable ways.
Some futurists believe that robots will become more advanced than us, and that survival of our species depends on augmenting our biology through technology such as genetic engineering.
My worry is that if artificial intelligence is allowed to develop entirely separately from us, and if it develops a lot more quickly than we can alter our biological bodies, then it may become vastly more intelligent, more wise than us, and we'll get left behind. And personally, I don't want to be left behind. I'd rather be up there with the most advanced creatures.
Through mutation and natural selection, changes to the human genome occur very slowly, taking thousands of millions of years. With genetic engineering, we can change our genes quickly and radically, which has many unpredictable implications.
We are now becoming the objects of conscious design. And the implications of that are just enormous, because until now, we've been reshaping the world around us. And we can see how dramatically it's been changing. I mean, we've really reshaped the landscape, and we've built a society and altered society and changed everything that's external to us. But somehow we imagined that we were going to remain the same, that we ourselves were not going to be caught up in this process. And that's not in fact true. We are going to remake ourselves. And it's very difficult to deal with, because it will rip free all of the anchors that have until now told us who we are as human beings.
One can imagine in the clumsy early stages of genetic engineering that mistakes might be made, and that there would be doomsday organisms created which could create lethal infections that could not be treated.
Just as with nanotechnology, genetic engineering entails many existential risks. One such risk would be genetic engineering used in warfare that would be more dangerous than biological weapons of today. Genetic engineering and nanotechnology are different from existential risks like bioterrorism or nuclear war, in that our knowledge and ability to create and use them will be more widespread and their consequences larger.
You enable individuals, the next generation of Kaczynskis of the world, that we can't assume that everybody's sane. So my view is we have to find some smart people to think about this. Maybe there's something I haven't thought of.
Futurist predictions regarding when we can expect these technologies to occur are motivating interest groups to start thinking of preventative solutions now. Conferences and summits devoted to singularity subjects bring technology futurists together in addressing potential risks resulting from advanced technology. And many foresight groups devoted to a similar cause, addressing research and policy issues regarding dangerous future technology. Also, strategy groups interested in developing clearer and better ways to conceptualize future problems that operate with knowledge of these technology trends in mind. And the newly founded Singularity University, which uses insight regarding technological change to educate and strategize in solving global challenges.
The mystic emotion and sense of wonderment that Einstein talks about gives us faith in the potential actions of mankind and lessens the likelihood of these terrible existential risks.
As the affluence of technology increases and the prosperity we get from it, so do the risks, and so also we have to increase our efforts in guiding it.
Whether the basic goodness of human beings, our imagination and our sense of wonderment and mystic emotion will prevent us from doing something that would threaten all of the human race, this is something we can't answer at the moment. But it doesn't mean it's not worth studying. It's probably the thing most worth studying and pondering, because there is more at stake in this than in anything else that we study. This has been Kim Solez and Nikki Olson bringing you our musings on existential risks.